I picked up oil painting as a hobby a year and a half ago. And when I did that, I had absolutely zero art training in my life. Outside of like random classes, like taking a ceramics class in college, just a one-off, or high school or middle school art classes, which I didn't take very many. I grew up in rural Kansas, and at the time, the arts was being defunded. And so I kind of internalized that as arts not being worth it, which is deeply unfortunate. It's a tangent. Anyway, what I did, like any reasonable person who's starting out with a hobby and has no clue where to start, I started watching YouTube videos. The first painting that I completed is, of course, the red cup with the lemon and the lime. If you know, you know. And from there, I continued to watch tutorials. I even signed up for a Patreon, and I continued to paint. And I realized that I loved it. It changed my life. It captivated me. I thought about it all the time, and it's what I always wanted to do in my free time. Now, at the time when I was taking these tutorials, I was kind of doing something on the side. I would have a Netflix show, or I would be watching a YouTube video, and I would be watching this tutorial and pausing it very frequently because it was kind of hard to keep up with. You know, I was mixing the paint, I was trying to apply it to the canvas, and it just wasn't as quick as the instructor could do it. And so it was taking a long time to complete a single painting. At the same time, when I tried to go off on my own and paint something like an apple or my mocha pot, I was finding that it looked really bad. Like I could not replicate the success that I was having in a YouTube tutorial. And that made me wonder, like, what is it that I can learn from these YouTube tutorials and how quick? I want to add like a little disclaimer here that I want to say that YouTube painting videos are wonderful. The path that I'm about to talk about, you know, it's great if you can afford it, but at the same time, it's very expensive. And if all that your means can allow is just YouTube tutorials, then I think they're really good. It's just going to take you a little bit longer to pick up the skills that they're trying to teach you. This is no way trying to bash YouTube tutorials or YouTube painters. I think they're wonderful. It's where I started, and the value that they hold is immense. But anyway, I was realizing that I wanted to learn skills more quickly, and I wanted to be able to paint on my own and kind of make a painting that I liked. So what I did is I looked into art schools, and I'm not talking about like 4-year degrees or art colleges, you know, where you go when you study full time. My thing was I was working full time. I work in tech, I work in the city, and, you know, I support myself. So I couldn't just go off and go to a traditional art school, even though I'm sure that would have been so much fun. Oh my God, I would love to, but I have limited means. So what I was looking at was an after school art class once or twice a week and just kind of try it and see how I liked. So I started going to this one art school in the city. It was very highly regarded. It is a nonprofit, and it was once a week for 3 hours. They provided a little kit that you could buy to kind of give you all of the basics that you needed. And yeah, it was a school that specialized in drawing and painting and ceramics. They had a really heavy focus on ceramics as well. So my first class at this art school, I really struggled. I found that we were painting very big. The canvases that they gave us were very big. And so I was getting lost in the sauce, just trying to keep up. In addition to that, I was kind of the only person in the class who didn't have art experience. Everyone else, you know, they had, you know, experience being like a printmaker, or they had painted before, or they were good at drawing. And, you know, I was sitting there, you know, a tech worker, not a lot of experience. And so I really struggled in that class. That being said, I also learned a lot. I learned about color theory, which is it's a foundational skill that I hold to this day. And they also taught us about like color palettes, which maybe I can show you a picture of, but I thought that was really interesting. They also, the instructor told me about an artist in the city that I really love her work. The instructor was really wonderful. She was high energy and just passionate, and I really liked that. So that class eventually ended. Maybe it was like 8 weeks, and I decided not to go on at that school. You know, they had like beginner painting 1, beginner painting 2, and I decided not to take beginner painting 2 because the art school was really far away from where I lived. It was about 40 minutes via transit. And the class got out at like 9 o'clock at night. And the area that it was in was not a place you wanted to be walking around at 9 o'clock at night as a young woman. I got creeped out a few times. There were a few instances where I was like, ooh, I don't know if this is safe. And so I decided to look for art schools that were closer to me. And I found one that was 20 minutes away via walk, which was perfect. And so I decided to sign up for their classes. And the class that they had was beginner oil painting. And it was twice a week for 3 hours. So 6 hours a week. So my first class was very different from the first art class school that I went to. It was a lot more comprehensive. They gave us a lot of papers. They were talking kind of just about the basics of like, this is what makes up oil paint. These are, you know, like basic brush information. And it started out a lot more theoretical, right? Like our first night, we didn't even paint. We just kind of did no-tan studies. So it was already from the jump very different. It very much treated me like a beginner, which I really appreciated. You know, they were not assuming that I had any prior information. The makeup of this class was very similar. Actually, a lot of people in that class had actually taken the class last year. The way this class was it was a kind of like multi-part series. There were 3 classes that kind of spanned from September to June. And most of the people in the class had taken that series the year prior. So I was green. So from that first class, we really continued building on the basics, you know, values, what makes a good painting, and brushwork. I will say something that I really appreciated about this second art class that I took was the instructor took the time to teach us how to take care of our brushes, and that was a gap. That was a gap in my knowledge. I was not taking care of my brushes, and you know what? I ruined a lot of brushes simply because I was not taking care of them. If you're learning how to oil paint and you don't know what you're doing, take the time to figure out how to take care of your brushes, because those things are expensive. You need to be taking care of them. And if you don't, like, you're going to be spending money that you don't need to be spending. So take the time to learn how to take care of your brushes. That being said, this second art class that I took was a very intense learning curve. I really struggled in that class. And I found that I was like spending so much money on supplies, and I was just, you know, trying to learn the basics. And it was hard kind of being the worst person in the class, which I was. But it was also very humbling. And, you know, looking back on that, I have a lot of grace for myself because I learned a lot, and it's okay to be bad at something. It just gives you, you know, a lot of upward trajectory to get better. I am now at the tail end of the second part of the series. So I'm almost done with the second part of the class. And when I look back on the paintings I made when I started, it is undeniable the progress that I've made. I know so much, and it's a lot easier for me now to just know what to do, how to start out, what I need to do when I'm cleaning up for the night. Like, it's so much easier for me. And when I'm at home painting by myself, I can create paintings that I like. You know, they're not incredible. They're not going to be in a museum, but I'm kind of proud of it. And I think that's really important. You know, that being said, this art class was very expensive, and it's a huge commitment to have to do it twice a week. You know, I really had to change a lot of things in my life, you know, like how often I was seeing my friends, even my partner, just so I could go to this class and, you know, make sure I'm giving it my all. But I found that having a dedicated space that I was going to twice a week really accelerated my progress. Just showing up consistently and doing it was so helpful. I will also say having an instructor standing over my shoulder saying like, why are you doing that? Do it like this instead, has also been immensely helpful. I think that in time, I probably could have learned a lot of these things, continuing to watch YouTube videos and YouTube tutorials, but the value in taking local art classes is you learn so much quicker. I will say another thing that I've really enjoyed that was kind of secondary in my pursuit of art classes is community. My friends are very creative and artistic, but none of them are necessarily oil painters. And I really felt that I would have enjoyed having more people in my life that I can connect to on that level. And the people in the classes, like the classes at the second art school, like, oh my gosh, they really care about oil painting and they are passionate about it and they're incredible artists. Having that community in my life, their support, they're really supportive, you know, like they've also watched me like grow over the past 6 months. And that's been really special to me. I really appreciate them. If they're watching this, hey, thank you. Yeah. It's not something I can articulate. It's just been very special to me. So that has been my experience taking art classes. If you have the means, if you have the time, if you really want to learn how to paint, I would highly suggest checking out your local art schools and seeing where it takes you. You'll probably learn something. You'll probably connect with other artists, and that in of itself is special. So yeah, that's been my journey. That's what I've learned. I hope you got something from this. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for clicking on this. It's so obscure. Ooh. Okay. Thank you. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.